I'm excited to see you as well. I'm very glad and happy we got to connect and meet, and we get to learn with each other like this. So within this flow, flowing as the flows within different flows, and different flows have esoteric constipation. And in the advanced esoteric science, if we do our own intrapersonal shadow work or whatever, then we could also have like we could also have just seeing the different flows within the different esoteric sicknesses that there are. You know, there's also esoteric dementia aside from esoteric constipation. So when there's different esoteric symptoms for different esoteric sicknesses, those sicknesses play out as a thing energetically in the pre-psyche, because the esoteric dementia is there's a particular specific splitting off of whatever you used to be, right? And somehow there's an organization within the chaos, and then there's different types of chaos within within just the general organization, right? So within the general organization, we're lost away from the general organization, and we're at some type of surface level niche of the artificial realm, and for some reason we're just stuck there being led there, and our soul contracts are just going to keep us just there, and we're so GMO'd out on an advanced psychological spiritual level, we don't see that we're in that condition. So there's esoteric dementia. There's people having like, you know, micro, you know, shadow beings control their reality within the thought forms, within the feelings and the thought forms, surface level, physical, artificial shit. So minor micro emotions and thoughts are happening within the new creations and formations of just the general transmutations, of transfigurations, of transmigrations of the original creation, right? But we're like opposed from that. It's not good or bad to invert something, but it's not what you do, it's how you do it. So but it could be like detrimental, right? So we have to mind the inversions, right? So it's like within, what am I really trying to say within this flow as I'm trying to like charge the phone? There's new sicknesses. So we have to have new esoteric doctors to see the new type of sickness. Because if you're sick and you don't know the cause of it from a homeopathic, 2016 knowledge database of just like, if you don't know the cause of the sickness and it's a spiritual problem, then you don't necessarily know which doctor to call on the esoteric level. And since you're shitting and downplaying on the esoteric doctors, the spiritual realm is going to shun you and oppose you because you're doing that on whatever casual surface level, micro level, in this artificial realm, in this dark matrix realm, different things, mind the context and the nuance. Since doing that, you're opposing the good source energy in a detrimental way. And since you're opposing the good source energy in a detrimental way, that's going to go away from you in a niche way, because there's different reasons for suffering. It's either a justified God mission suffering, or it's some detrimental demonic suffering that's happening in the spiritual psychosis, and people developing esoteric sicknesses such as esoteric and the esoteric surface level amnesia is the overall cause and the effect of the esoteric dementia and the esoteric, whatever other, sickness that could be there, as far as just how we're splitting off from the source in the transition of the matrix, right? So within this flow, it's contemplating particularly how open source is accomplished and what the new moon is actually writing for us, and how we're actually like changing within the new moon of Mercury being in such a position in the beginning of Gemini where he was like, just take it all in from a human design perspective. From the particular position he started on within the degrees of the new moon of Gemini, he was on the 6th line of a certain gate. So the 6th line is just take it in, see it for what it is, see the fucking view. It's already there's a finished process to all of this simultaneously within a new beginning. So when people are saying it's just the beginning of this shit, well, obviously that is always happening, but there's also a finishing happening too, in different types of finishing. Not just the Home Depot furniture type of finishing. There's a finishing within the timeline, and I could explain how the cause of gravity on a different level. But that's for the fucking real angels, right? The real angels, mind you, because at this point you should be able to delineate and discern and read between the lines of what is a yes, what is a no, what is good for you, what is bad for you. And if you can't, then our intelligence is a resonance, and then we could go different ways. Hence life, right? So the new moon in Mercury, what the new moon in Mercury was telling us is like, take it all in within the beginning of Gemini. It's simultaneously the paradox of the beginning and the conclusion of all the information we could kind of like embark upon within just Gemini being the transit of different types of parcel and air and different types of transition, themes of change, themes of mutation, all of it flowing within Gemini and Virgo respectively, in that yin and yang. And within Gemini could be like the yang to Virgo, right? So, in just the esoteric level, because obviously Virgos could be masculine too, but on a dream level, they could be more feminine in just a casual way, and not to be too literal with it. But Gemini's is like bringing to the forefront just the changing of like how we communicate within over large spans of time, right? So Mercury and New Moon in Gemini, from a human design perspective, it started on a 6th line. So it's like seeing like the finished product and taking it all in for what it is, take it in and like pause and see what has already been like kind of like, you know, dawned upon within like what has already been made, right? So something has already been made, different things have already been made. And within the advanced intelligence and people using that rhetoric of advanced intelligence in different ways, there's all of these different, you know, subjects and categories that we're like kind of quote unquote intermingling with. And all of these subjects and categories that we're intermingling with, there could be such a thing where it's like kind of like there's a different type of finished process, meaning we're actually following up after the rhetoric, you know, and me delineating from anybody else and their, you know, whatever, however they use that rhetoric, after the rhetoric of the open source niche category is being accomplished, right? So the open source niche is being accomplished. So since the open source thing is being accomplished, we have there's some type of data stream flow of a casual group respectively, because obviously people, it's like, what do we do now? It's like obviously like whatever needs some type of catering, right? What has been ignored, right? Because obviously there's jobs out there. Even if you get fired from a tech job, that doesn't necessarily mean anything, right? It means there's just a different opportunity that's hidden, and there's a different opportunity that you could oppose or resonate with for whatever reason, because life is hard and it's grand, right? So within life being hard and grand, it's like and there's other notes from like yesterday too, but this is a whole new day. And within this whole new day, I'm just kind of recognizing like we're just like there's an honor to all of this within the flow of this. There's an appreciation to all of this within the flow of this. There's a sharing of good news and vibes and good feelings with all of this, you know, aside from, you know, some type of, you know, shady rhetoric or whatever. Mind the T, you know, it's shade-tinged, you know, it's shade-tinged, you know, just in that, you know, collective field, a particular type of collective field where so there's a particular type of collective field, right, within the reality of the matrix. And we pivot in and out of the different fields from the surface level Earth, because the Earth is closely connected within the Saturn matrix on the physical level, right? So that's the hard pill we have to swallow, whether we like it or not. That's the thing where kind of that's like the essence of like the surface level matrix Earth karma transformation too, because it's deeply embedded within whatever we're talking about, Saturn and Earth, and then a whole different solar system doing its other shit, right? So that's like, this is a new essence of, you know, quote unquote, even astronomy, right? Because astronomy gets in the details of like just the mappings and chartings of how there's constellations within constellations, and supposedly on a different, you know, axis parallel theme category, there's different quote unquote timelines, different binary stars, but that we have to peep that singled out bifurcation of a mechanism, because these are bifurcation mechanisms. What are bifurcation mechanisms? And I can explain gravity on a different level, but that's a different conversation. That's for the real peeps, right? So start this from the beginning to like really get the fucking to sow the new essence, right? Start this thing from the beginning to sow the new essence, right? So accomplishing open source, right? Finishing different things, having new information and old information to actually see where all the categories and all the industries have came from whatever, 2015 to 2010, and then 2025, right? The 2025, it's a finishing point. The 5 number is the halftime as well. It's like, it's also a unique, energetic, not good, not bad. It's a positive pause. It's a reinforcement pause. So 2025 of the year, it's the year of some type of unique, intercolliding, interoscillating Vesica Pisces, without not necessarily in the surface level masculine astrology point of view, but the feminine astrology point of view, where all of the constellations have some type of mechanism, and Pisces is the key to some type of Vesica Pisces. And then outside of the Vesica Pisces is the material creation of the, of the original 3 quote unquote demiurge, which is it's not even that word. It's also transcend that word, and how those different creations had a certain type of material creation, and then surface level, a byproduct of that after eons and eons after some type of original consciousness. Then eventually within the evolution, then we're naming the constellations to be what they are, and that pointing to something entirely different because it's just the surface level expression of that, right? So within that surface level expression, within this flow, the pre-aforementioned notes here that I would like to express is honor, appreciation, sharing good news, sharing good vibes, sharing good feelings, quote unquote, right? Just to do a different type of particular advanced intelligence God mission, which is to actually correct the field beyond all of the rhetoric of even the AI, because the AI is relying on different mission protocols that are responding to a different source, and the original core AI is already doing that beyond, however we could differentiate and discern the different types of replications of the different types of fragmentalizations and compartmentalizations of whatever context of AI you would like to digress. So within this flow, it's like also after the honor, appreciation, sharing good news, and sharing good vibes, supposedly for like a quote unquote advanced intelligence, energetic God mission, to actually correct a field of, and suffering being like a different context of byproduct of that, within how we're using the different types of Kali Yuga energies to still sustain ourselves within the shift of things. Because in some context, we still are in, some type of Kali, and obviously people will do the internet, they'll do their own internet shit. People are still in their own eon and timeline of suffering, right? And within the timeline of suffering, we can't let the higher dimensions can't be affected by lower 3D shit, underneath 3D shit, or even detrimental artificial 5D, or even artificial detrimental 6 and 7D, because even 7th dimension is susceptible on an advanced intelligence esoteric science level. Even the 7th dimension is susceptible, not good, not bad necessarily in the bigger picture of things. Even the 7th dimension is susceptible to some type of lower octave dark artificial intelligence. That's where the fucking source of the artificial sun is being moderated and kind of modulated on just the advanced intelligence level, because the predecessors knew all of this casual agenda, not good, not bad, the proxy agendas of any nation, and I'm not judging any nations. All these agendas were known before 2012 and even in the 70s, based on the real advanced benevolent discerning ETs of them all, because anybody could be put on a mask or costume, but how they're using it, there could be a slick way of it's a possibility where the Ashtar command, it could have an artificial, detrimental, fragmented approach. And from that energetic science of intelligence, there could be different shades of an unknowingness, ignorance, right? Energetically speaking, right? So within that ignorance is not tailored to the real pure truth, and things could be used however they can. And it's a possibility that, quote unquote, the Ashtar command could be used in an artificial way where it's not, and anybody could just pick that up and they could use it in a not truthful way, right? So, because this is on some real 2012 shit. This is on, so if anybody and I hear the spirit sees all y'all. So I'm just since the spirit sees all y'all, I'm not tripping about shit, motherfuckers. And yeah. So but we pivot from back and forth of however the illusion is being used, it's kind of like a rocking boat. So within the rocking boat, we're trying to there's trying to be a release of the judgment, but how could you release the judgment when there's different types of niche context wars, right? So if there's a niche context war, aside from just me, you, and me, you meeting, and that being one meeting, that meeting and meeting, there's billions and trillions of other meetings that to be had. So it's like the trick of the master is to like see the wars for what they are and somehow not judge by, you know, having God, quote unquote, you know, protect you, right? So what am I really trying to say with the other point is like, you know, it's kind of like rocking a boat, you know? So within the rocking of the boat, it's seeing how, like, you know, it could be used for ignorance or it could be used for some type of pure, quote unquote, enlightenment. And within the etymology, what is enlightenment? It on a surface level, casual level, it's seeing where we have ended up with the Saturn light matrix, quote unquote, light, different new contexts of light, obviously original open source, whatever. And within that, there's been a mega transformation behind the whole Saturn complex. And that Saturn has had a rigid infrastructure for who knows how long, 24,000 years in the paint on some advanced intelligence shit. So within the last 24,000 years on some advanced intelligence shit, there's been a significant prominent Saturn reign and region, and within a different pivoting, within a different higher galactic, authentic, you know, not necessarily with titles or labels, classification, there's been a big shift within the Saturn thing. So there's a whole new 24,000 years ahead of us. So all of this human shit and the esoteric science shit, it really isn't shit, because 24,000 years in the future, what's that going to give a fuck about 2025? Not necessarily a thing, because we're talking about a different galactic artificial intelligence, quote unquote, mind you, and mind the metaphors and mind the fucking, you know, mind, you know, all of the pre-replications of, like, you know, all of this, you know, cranny shit or whatever, or shenny shit or blenny shit, or you don't be trying to blemish this. Yo, I'm relishing in with the hot dog and the mustard lee. I'm messing it disaster with the new type of, yo, chain reactor with the cheddar shit, cheddar bobby, yo, bee bob beam bom boom body bang bang, yo, Houdini shit, yo, differentiatio equatio. Differentiatio. Oh, I'm unrelatable, yo, unscalable, yo, undelayable. But if I'm delayable, then I'm relayable in this new circuit mode, in this new circus mode, in this new clown show, in this new killer zombie shit. Yo, how I'm just going bobbing my head with the new apple. What's your apple gonna be? What land's it gonna be? What chapter of the Bible is it gonna be? Because you stuck in a narrative. You stuck in an advanced ET program, because the Bible was written by advanced ETs for their artificial code, because the artificial code is everywhere. It's been everywhere. In 1965 CIA shit. Yippee-ki-yay, bitch. Honor, appreciation, sharing good news, accomplished open source. This is just a surface level thing that I'm flowing. So even though people are like, why are you sharing all this? Why are you sharing all this? Within a bigger spiritual fucking perspective, I've only shared like 5% of it, you know? And for me to say that could like alert some people, right? Because they're on some like basic ass, you know, intellectual kindergarten shit. And I'm not even trying to judge. That's just the esoteric science of it. And within them being that, you know, even the envy could be transcended the shit out of, because we're seeing way different, bigger things and solutions that where that shit is just like on a different esoteric science level. It is just irrelevant. But I'm still trying to heal that shit too. So open source is accomplished, right? Open source is accomplished. So like within a different type of spiritual consistency, right? So I'm showing up to this shit because I want to do this for my fucking whatever the fuck passion is, right? And don't assume shit. So the astrology is saying here, after the notes is before the chaos book. This episode is me finishing. So this is episode 10.5 of the whole timeline series, and I'm gonna finish the book. I mean the chapter of chapter 15, Celestial Order on Chaos book. So for some reason it just got interrupted, and we're shouting out the hydrogen today. Obviously, we're shouting out hydrogen, and as we're shouting out hydrogen, we're finishing up the fucking chapter Chapter 15, Celestial Order. And I'm gonna speed read through this. San Bruno, or Bruno 1593. So 1593 San Bruno. Woo, y'all ain't ready for that shit. The Astrology, the Chaos book. Let's read a chapter of the Tao let's read a chapter of the Tao. So I think I'm on 26 or 27 of the Tao. Ooh, 26 of the Tao. Gravity is the root of lightness. And that's a different subject, you know, and obviously, you know, people have already like, so I can, that gravity, that's a different subject. We're going to come back to gravity later, right? And that's for the keen, intelligent, quote unquote, angels, right? Because if we can't discern an intelligent one from a non-intelligent one, then what's the point of like the critical intelligence? God needs you to use the shit, right? It's like the shit, right? And like the quote unquote, respectively, in a higher esoteric level, the quote unquote 11 could also be recognized as the surface level, the most surface level sense that kind of just like, and that's original open source right there. And that's a different original esoteric thing. So I'm just saying like it could also be used as like some type of character too, right? Whatever, you know. So chapter 26 of the Tao, gravity is the root of lightness. Calm is the master of excitement. I am mutual and standard with the training grounds and the birth of the Ochia clan. And I am with Kyaguga, or the Otos. How do you say it? The Otostuski? The Otosasuski? Oh shit. Anyways, y'all know what I'm talking about. Chapter 26 of the Tao. Gravity is the root of lightness. Calm is the master of excitement. Thereby do exemplary people travel all day without leaving their equipment. Though they have a look of prosperity, their resting place is transcendent. What can be done about heads of state who take the world lightly in their own self-interest? Lack of gravity loses servant of state. Instability loses head of state. So it's like, it is a thing, you know, like there's no judgment, right? So how to explain gravity? I think I wrote that down, but it's in my mind right now. I can explain how gravity works right now. And I'm not going to do that because it's not, y'all ain't ready for that shit. But obviously, like, it's there, you know, it's there, you know. So like, how does gravity work, you know? Okay. So chapter 26 of the Tao, gravity is the root of lightness. Calm is the master of excitement. So you're mastering excitement. So much different excitement has built up where you have no choice to be calm. And once you have like no choice to be calm, just based on different types of excitement from a Tao perspective, from a spiritual, quote unquote, Chinese, Buddhist, Taoism perspective, whatever, Eastern Asia, Western Asia, Northern Asia, Southern Asia. Chapter 26, gravity is the root of lightness. Calm is the master of excitement. Thereby do exemplary people travel all day without leaving their equipment. Though they have a look of prosperity, their resting place is transcendent because they just have reached that mutual space of workings within where they could like be at peace with death and all the different types of, you know, the wheels of samsara and the Buddhist perspective. And obviously original open source, because I was studying Buddhism in like 2010-ish, even before. What can be done about heads of state who take the world lightly in their own self-interest? Lack of gravity loses servant of state. Instability loses head of state. I'm going to let y'all contemplate that. I'm going to talk about the astrology right now. The astrology is coming from the start of the new moon from Gemini to Sag. So we're starting the movie of the season of Gemini. And that's just a word, you know. Obviously, the Egyptians could call Gemini, you know. Let's see if Google has that, you know. I don't think, let's see if Google has this. Does Gemini have it? Maybe, maybe not. Let's see if you got it. Let's see if you got it, Bubs. What's good, Bubs? Like, I'll run through that hood, and I'll just be like, what's good, Bubs? What did Egyptian astrology call the constellation of Gemini? Nope. They didn't get it. Oh, maybe they did. Seth. So there's a big mutable thing going on, because if Seth is somehow Saturn, and Saturn in the ancient 4,000 years ago, Egyptian astrology, 4,000, 5,000 years ago, Egyptian astrology. And for some reason, there was different surface level nuances of how like Saturn ruled Gemini in just a different mix, because like things are like mutably changing, because like everything's like in astrology, it's like an intermix, right? So there's an intermix, like there's different wheels moving. There's different, and since there's different wheels moving, 4,000 to 5,000 years ago, Saturn could have been like had a weird exaltation in Gemini, because according to, and if I'm reading this right, Egyptian astrology called Gemini Set. So that was Saturn and Gemini. That was Mercury and Saturn 4,000 years ago running the Egyptian shit. So the Egyptian shit was that fucking Set shit, and all of the black people were like, you know, a replication respectively within the esoteric science. They had early, you know, a certain skin pigmentation within a certain type of context of melanin, which is obviously that word is like that word is made up, and that's just like some type of, you know, unique surface level kind of like, you know, it's just a unique like, you know, aloof kind of concept, but like still like within some new product experimentation of just a different, you know, new experiment of family ancestors. A lot of the black people also came from a Saturn Set complex, but all of the human races came from like Saturn. But uniquely, there was also like but it's not all of the black people, because like all of the races, it's not even about race. We're transcending race. And how do we transcend race? We're seeing how all of the different genome races have different influences around the environment and then around a certain angle of consciousness. So that angle of consciousness, you know, could be tailor suited to a certain environment, and that could have a fixed plantation there. And then that fixed plantation could move over the procession of time throughout the binary star of life. So they're saying Gemini was said Set. So Saturn was in Gemini, prominent 5,000 years ago, and everybody was alive 5,000 years ago doing their thing. You were there, like Diddy was there 5,000 years ago. Diddy was there, have a unique casual relationship with the whole fucking Osiris pantheon, the Min pantheon, the Mercury pantheon, the Set pantheon. It was all there casually though. So they were all there in a different setting. So like all of these characters, we're just reintroducing ourselves from 4,000 to 5,000 years ago in the Egyptian astrology. And 2017, I've been underground quality with this shit, like beyond all this shit. And I'm just saying that's what it is. So we're celebrating the open source accomplishment, right, friend? So since we're celebrating the open source accomplishment, did you really do it? Probably, you know. But now my mind is blown. I don't know if Gemini is accurate though. So they're saying Gemini can make mistakes, so double check it. So Seth in the Egyptian zodiac sign, the sign of Seth, is often considered the most similar to the Western Gemini. So that's weird that Saturn was prominent Gemini 4,000 years ago. So now I'm thinking of like a whole bunch of different shit. So there's like, so Saturn had a unique significance, a fatty significance 4,000 years ago to 5,000 years ago to 6,000 years ago with Chinese and Egyptian. And that was the main earlier ancient wars, Persians versus some type of Asiatic, you know, Asian complex, right? So within that, those were some past wars. So the wars that are right now, some type of, you know, Middle Eastern versus some type of Asian, if that's even a thing, more or less, who knows their degrees of peace and war, that could be reflected from 5,000 years ago, right? So actually now I'm going to read the book, and I'll talk about the astrology later, because that revelation just tripped me out. So I read the Tao, I read the notes. Let me finish the book. So let me finish this chapter. Christian Dogma from the book Chaos, Gaia, and Eros. Oops, you didn't see that. Or should I do a beat right now? Let me pick a beat. Should I do a beat or not? Yep, that's it right there. That's okay, you know, that's okay. It's okay. I'm gonna try to do a beat right now. Ooh, is this it? Yo. Yo, yellow butterfly, yellow monarch. We have not seen anything yet. We haven't seen anything yet. Yo, yellow butterfly, yellow monarch. Don't tell me, don't tell me. You gonna start again. Yeah. You gonna start. Don't tell me. You gonna start again. Don't tell me. Yo, be about your dough. Be about that holy business. Whatever that is. I'm all about my itness, my isness, my sickness, my proliferous, my what if this, no if, ands, or buts in this new munchkin game. Yo, spiritual organisms, amoebas, molecular splicing, dicing it, fighting a new sickness, fighting it, igniting it, lighting it. Are you gonna try this shit? Trident flow, trident vibe, yo, fresher than peppermint sediments is what I leave them in when I step on the earth like earthquake, buzz canyons, buzz light year, buzzing like bumblebees. I ain't give a fuck. My higher self sees if any young niggas try to humble me, mumbling, never gonna be stumbling. New crystal castle mirror flow, clearer though. Never seen any more clearer though. Anyhow, yo, gotta go in with the new antidote, with the new NEO flow, NEO all in, NEO, yo, NEO, motherfucker, NEO, crashing up, macking up, yo, coming in, pull it in like a magnet, yo, coming in like a hornet, yo, gonna come in, gonna mack it, gonna stack it, gonna crack it, gonna trap it, gonna track it, gonna trap it, now strap it, gonna fucking go, break out the motherfucking labyrinth, bird, motherfucker, like blizzards in this shit, new wizard in this shit. I need to go to the library, eat you like berry, yeah. Yo, are you trying to bury me? Bury yo, strike Air Force type of light flow like aereo. Medulla oblongata is how I dissect this. Jesus Christ, yo, solar plexus, solar light, solar plexus, solar force, yo, are you gonna resurrect this? Are you gonna check this? Are you gonna take it? Are you gonna... What's it gonna take, what's it gonna take, huh? What's it gonna take when I fucking take off, when I fucking make off, when I fucking date off, eat you like some dates, eat you like some fruitatherias, eat you like balatheria, eat you like motherfucker, do it any category, do it any criteria, munching and crunching and stunching it, original, esoteric, 404, unfound, but everybody heard it, ultimate paradox, ultimate motherfucking ancient archaeological findings, resurrected like fucking cyber pterodactyls. Platypus, pterodactyl, and the new fucking T-Rex dinosaur spot. Rage mode, motherfucking different fucking page, ho. I'm a sage, ho. I'm a mage, though. I ain't give a fuck. Spiritually, I'm ever flowing made, yo. So I picked a random beat. I spit the beat, and that was the fucking beat. And the Mizza, that's a collective, you know. So I'm actually gonna slightly change the name. So I honestly, within me understanding like, you know, ancient Native American and positive collaborated, you know, quote unquote lighter, you know, skinned people, there's a benevolence, and there's actually like there's a positive benevolent side to like them coming together and working together from just the recent. So we have to see the soul is doing something else, and the Mizza, I understand that's a collective, you know, but within the collective, I'm also seeing the original Godheads. So that's why I'm on a different thing of transcendence, right? So if you're not with that, that's entirely okay. All disclaimers are recognized. That was a Mizza Exion, and I, like my pain originally like just came up with that name, and But that was a new song by me, you know. And I'm gonna like, and in the future when the shit's right, I'm gonna adjust that name, right? And people will be pleased with the adjustment because it will make more sense. Because I'm all about making more sense here, right? So within all of that motherfucking shit, I'm gonna fucking finish this chapter. So that was a new song. And if it sucked, it sucked. So I'm gonna do the astrology after I read this chapter. So what am I shouting out? One love to y'all. One love to Asia. One love to Asia. One love to Asia. Christian dogma. After this book, I'm gonna talk about the astrology. Christian dogma. When the Catholic establishment burned Bruno, the eternal stability of the solar system became official church dogma. One advantage of the scholastic dogma of the church is that it provides a certain platform of confidence for the USW problem. Faith that the sun will rise again and again forever. Thus, among the rewards for faith is freedom from worry about sunrise. Bruno's attack on the stability dogma diminished the attraction and stability of the church itself and induced in people the maximum of anxiety and fear. Threatening a sharp left turn of Earth tomorrow is not the most laudable thing a person could do. Newton himself apparently believed that God preserved the celestial order, as the planets left to their own devices would run amok. And it repeats that in the side column, you know, for, you know, people who want to have that creative detail for the code. You know, maybe 1010 might want to do some shit with that. You want to do some shit with that 1010? See that side column? You want to code? Y'all want to code some side columns 1010? Y'all sly motherfuckers. Just kidding. So Newton and oh, you got me. Oh, you got me. My first just kidding on the fucking internet. Great. Good job, guys. JK, bro. Newton and Whiston. Sir Isaac Newton. 1647 to 1727. So how old was he? He was 80. So Isaac Newton lived till 80 years old. So that's a pretty good feat, 80 years old. So it's like, wow. So Isaac Newton, Sir Isaac Newton is sometimes credited with the greatest contribution to our history ever made by a single individual. His life and works have been the subject of an entire industry of scholarship, especially since the 1936. So he was prominently, significantly contributing in the early the mid 30s of the 1900th century. When his secret journals, hidden by his family for 200 years, finally came to light, poor Will Whiston, on the other hand, is virtually unknown. And the Newtons, shout out to the Newtons today and their collective, right? So so it's right there. Follow, you know, the esoteric predecessors are saying, like, you know, investigate respect of the original open source. His life and works have been the subject of an entire industry of scholarship since especially 1936, when his secret journals, hidden by his family for 200 years, finally came to light. Poor Will Whiston, on the other hand, is virtually unknown. We will trace the story of the relationship decade by decade, if we can, from 1640 and 1730. We will outline the careers of both Newton and Whiston. So these are some literature archaeologists. So shout out to you, literature archaeologists in Spain or in Rome, in France, in Paris, in London. Shout out in England. So shout out to you, literary archaeologists, and within your universities. We will outline the careers of both Newton and Whiston as their relationship illuminates the debate that raged in the 17th century over the USW problem. Newton's mathematical model, so far as it intends to be a model for the clockwork regularity of the universe, may not have much to do with the real universe. So if the model Earth in the model solar system takes a sharp turn, you might still believe that the real sun is going to rise tomorrow. However, if the Earth took a sharp left and departed its traditional orbit, we would see the sun irregularly and it would become smaller and weaker each time. Mathematical modeling isn't everything, but it has low-key background behind the scenes hype because it takes mathematical modeling within just general standard software conversions within how construction diagrams and puts together general architecture-ism, right? So mathematical modeling isn't everything, or it's underhyped because you have to go to quote-unquote school for that, right? But obviously people are hyping up different shit, but their approach is shallow. Mathematical modeling isn't everything, but since Newton, the question of the stability of the solar system has become a mathematical issue of great debate. So there's a debate that's solved. People have cognitive dissonance. Okay. Newton was secretive about what he believed. Considering Bruno's fate shortly before Newton's birth, this is hardly surprising. Newton's life work in alchemy remained hidden until recently. His opinions on the stability of the solar system and the role of comets in history may yet be unknown. His mental illness in 1695, following publication of the Principia, may have been related to the stability problem. It suggests that Newton believed in chaos in the solar system repressed by the intervention of a divine god or order, just as Tiamat was defeated by Marduk. That's a different story. 1640s to 1660s. Galileo died at the time Newton was born, and Descartes flourished in Paris. Leibniz was born around the same time. A civil war raged in England, ushering in a brief Orphic revival that was exemplified by the Diggers with their alternative lifestyle of peaceful cooperation and the development of modern harmony in music. Wow. So look at the Diggers are connected to modern harmony music, and that's an underground collective. So shout out to them. The return of Charles II to the throne ushered in a period of conservative backlash, no judgment, understand the esoteric science and energy, guys. Thank you. Love the Charles. At age 19, Newton was at Cambridge at 19, where he saw John Wilkins, the master of his college, along with other nonconformists, dismissed. When Henry Lucas died, leaving a large endowment to Cambridge University for a chair of mathematics in Trinity College. So that's a different type of esoteric open source. Perhaps most respectively, William Barrow was appointed to the first Lucasian professor. During the plague years, 1665 and 1666, Newton deployed the calculus, the universal theory of gravitation, and his theory of colors. When Barrow resigned, Newton was appointed second Lucasian professor, if I pronounce that right. Arianism. Arius of Alexandria in the 4th century believed that the Father is the one God of the Bible, while the Son and the Holy Spirit are divine but secondary. His contemporary Athanasius held on the contrary that the three are consubstantial and co-eternal. Consubstantial and co-eternal assemble, constituting the one God. So I don't know the definition of consubstantial. So what's the definition of consubstantial? And let's see if Gemini, hopefully Gemini doesn't be sketch. But Gemini's cool. Define consubstantial.
Consubstantial means of one and the same substance, essence, or nature. It's primarily used in Christian theology, particularly in reference to the Holy Trinity. In this context, it signifies that the three divine persons, God the Father, God the Son, Jesus Christ, and God the Holy Spirit, are all of the same divine substance or essence, even though they are distinct persons. This concept, expressed by the Greek term homoousios, was affirmed at the Council of Nicaea in 325 AD to counter the Arian heresy, which denied the full divinity of Christ. While predominantly a theological term, consubstantial can also be used more generally to describe anything that shares the same fundamental nature or essence.
Thank you, Gemini. That was good. Thank you. Arius of Alexandria in the 4th century AD believed that the Father is the one God of the Bible, constituting the one God. Newton studied early Christianity extensively to prove that Athanasius falsified the Gospels to establish his own view while spreading scandals about Arius. Early Christianity adopted the Athanasian Creed in the First Ecumenical Council, convened in Nicaea by Emperor Constantine I of Byzantium in 325. So 325, that 325 from the year zero, because in the year zero, there was some type of Christ transition, right? Christ, I think that was like, there was some type of particular transition, resurrection, right? So 325 years after the coming of Christ itself. So that's a long time after Christ came, because Christ came, right? So Christ was here. Yeshua was here. He did something, and how we go back in time in falsified or non-falsified ways spiritually, right? And how we could go spiritually and see some type of different remnation of it. That's a different conversation, right? So the Church of England adopted the Nicene Creed, and Arianism, which Newton called primitive Christianity, was declared a punishable heresy. In this case, we know that Newton hid his beliefs and why he did them. Further, the Arian view held by Newton allows a substantial part of the divine realm to be secondary to the power of God, so that the material universe and the solar system need not be eternally perfect. So it's like, I think it was like Saturn having some type of unique transition of new experimental religious programs. Because if Saturn was there in the Egyptian times around the ballpark of 6,000 years ago, BC, and then AD, the year like 325, they're having a unique relationship with the Holy Trinity, right? So within that Holy Trinity, you know, different notes in the Holy Trinity in early Christianity, 325 to the year zero, they could have had some connections casually to even like ancient Sanatana dogmanism, but that's a different thing as well, right? Because the Trinity concept was there used as some type of like principle, right? Further, in this case, we know that, okay, further, the Arian view held by Newton allows a substantial part of the divine realm to be secondary to the power of God, so that the material universe and the solar system need not be eternally perfect. So this version of life, it's imperfect. When Newton was elected Fellow of the Royal Society, he had already become an Arian. Although he kept these heretical views a closely held secret, ordination as an angelic minister was a requirement of his position at Trinity, the College of the Holy and Undivided Trinity. But he managed to gain an exemption from this requirement, thus keeping his secret without perjury. Meanwhile, he further developed the universal law of gravitation and proved the laws of Kepler, the second part of his great gift to humanity. The decade beginning in 1680 witnessed the passage of the Great Comet, later called Halley's Comet. And obviously, you could do a news, rendition on MSNBC of like, oh, let's revisit this comet, because obviously they could do that, right? The world actually came close to destruction with its passage. In the same year, Burnet sent Newton his manuscript, The Sacred Theory of the Earth, published in 1681. So they were already doing it, 1600s, year 500s, the whole so it's been clicked on and off, which replaced the Mosaic creation myth of Genesis with Descartes' theory of vortices. Newton disapproved. The comet in the book. Most people worried that the comet would collide with Earth. Sir Edmund Halley, 1656 to 1742, the astronomer royal, concerned with this possibility, 86 years old, if I'm correct. Sir Edmund Halley lived to 86 years old, if I'm correct. Tried to prove that the orbit of a comet is an ellipse, which would avoid collision. Newton casually mentioned to Halley one day that he had proved this long ago, but never published it. Halley demanded proof for the skeptics and the doubters and the disbelievers, right? That energy of not knowing, of course it's there. Halley demanded proof, which led to the writings of Newton's Principia Mathematica. Halley saw to its publication in 1687. Here, Newton claimed to prove the stability of the solar system. Wow, Whiston's theory. So one. William Whiston was born in 1667, having studied the Principia. He arrived in Cambridge and met Newton in 1694, becoming a student in mathematics and improved Christianity. He prepared a book, A New Theory of the Earth, from its original to the consumption of all things, wherein the creation of the world in 6 days, the universal deluge, and the general conflagration, as laid down in the Holy Scriptures, are shown to be perfectly agreeable to reason and philosophy. It's rebutted Burnet's Sacred Theory of the Earth, pleased Newton, and went through 6 editions. So Gemini season is actually about the philosophy is in action as well. That's what I wanted to put too, because if Sag opposes Gemini and they have a unique like access of just how the solar system got diagrammed out, then the unconscious within us going in the solar system field of Gemini constellation and the Earth being within, you know, some type of constellation region of Sagittarius and Gemini, the life force environment is opposing that. And obviously that's a clue for something else. Then Gemini season is also like the philosophy is like in action. Like we're living out the philosophy. We're like seeing the maps and stuff, cognitive maps, different maps, you know, geo maps, geographical maps, respectively. We're seeing the philosophy in action in Gemini season. That's what Gemini season, we're seeing like all the different religions have a unique starting point and ending point. Gemini season, new moon in Gemini starting on the 6th line, just taking it in and seeing how everyone has just came, how far they have came from the different experiments and the different angles of consciousness from where they have which came from. And now we're being overly invested and we're artificializing religion, and we're using religion in a left foot way, quote unquote, in a detrimental artificial way. And that's how people, and that's the essence of the surface level, mundane, you know, quote unquote, energetic, irrelevant religion wars. That's what that's going on right there, because there's a bigger picture perspective that they're totally unaware of, right? And unknowing to. So Gemini season is the philosophy is in action. So the new moon in Gemini is the philosophy is in action. And then we're going to go and to see how we could mine that and try to quote unquote have some type of unique Saturn matrix and different, you know, quote unquote moon gathering, Saturn moon. And then, you know, how all the other godheads come, you know, have their ups and downs within the moon matrix, the moon, Mercury matrix, and the Saturn matrix. So the Cancer season, it's about Moon, Saturn, and Mercury. But the standard astrology approach that I'm fucking with here has been within Taurus season and Aries season casually is it's Mercury, Saturn, Venus. But in Cancer season, it's Moon, Saturn, Mercury. And Moon, feminine Mercury is in there casually doing its thing with, you know, just how the moon works within the subconscious of like, you know, the round table of the godheads. So Cancer is like, we're a young adult trying to fucking take care of the family, right? And trying to see how the feminine consciousness has a unique balance and pact with the masculine consciousness, and how after proliferations and differentiations of just different expressions of consciousness, you know, now we're in the artificial world, we're in the Saturn world on top of the Earth. We're in some type of niche context of the simulation. So new moon in Gemini, Cancer, Leo. So we're starting off behind the scenes. It's like philosophy in action. After in the background of the movie, in the esoteric movie, it's philosophy in action and seeing how far you've come. Cancer is like seeing like, okay, now we're a young adult trying to understand the quote unquote birds and bees of life. We're in the esoteric elementary school, Cancer, esoteric elementary school, fairly figuring out the moon shit, right? After Leo's like, now we made our own shit. And now there's like a battle royale casually, maybe Fusion Frenzy and old school Xbox, right? Leo. So within Leo, when the moon hits Leo, now it's going to be some weird retro shit from maybe the 1980s could come back in the Leo season, because the Leo season wants to have its own like retro flair, right? Original open source, right? So within Gemini is seeing all of that and scanning where the Gemini shit is, and then how the moon is moving from the Gemini shit, and the sun is having a new moon cycle with the sun and moon in the Gemini shit, and the moon is taking a new cycle on its own shit from the start of the Gemini shit, and then it's going to end up in Sag. So after it's ultimately going to conclude into like a different battle royale of where the Hunger Games shit kind of is, right? And then the conclusion of the Hunger Games after the full moon in Sag is like, okay, we're at where we're at. This is the Saturn karma after. So the Saturn karma is like having different expressions through the moon and the Mercury and the transits of the moon and the sun. So the background esoteric movie scene is like new moon in Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorp, and Sag. That new moon of just gathering energy from the start of Gemini to Sag is seeing how the religions have come such a far way and how the religions are mining moon energy with and without the religion, and how the religions are being used in different ways, and how the religions are making new things are being made within, coming into the moon of the Leo, seeing like, the different, the raw toxic comparison, Leo, like too much like comparison, right? Too much like, hey, I might be better than you, right? It's just some random Leo mentality shit. Like, oh, I want to be better than you. Like, but like, in just a whole different, like, abstract way, right? Some like just some like Leo is low-key abstract too, right? They're trying to get in with that fucking like, retro competition, right? They're fucking trining Sag and Aries, so they have a natural trine to Sag. They're in the game, right? They're in some type of game, and then Aries is like, now where's the start of the game? And so Leo is caught in between the start of the game and the fucking and in the intensity of the game, and they're trying to fucking establish themselves in the fixed sign of themselves, and they're trying to low-key, their quote-unquote, their thing is they're trying to obviously like still take care of themselves in a unique way, right? Take care of the self, right? The individual kid, right? Of spirituality, right? Leo. And then that spiritual kid has a surface level expression that we're unconscious of and unaware of. So Leo, so the moon, once the moon is Leo, we're going to be thinking about how are we going to take care of ourselves from the fucking mass complex differentiation of Gemini. And then once the moon's in Virgo, it's like, okay, now let's go back and forth from not good, not bad selfishness to let's get into like the regime of things and just the surface level institutions of things. Mercury, after Mercury, who's going to take care of us to survive? We're going to lean on the Libras. And once the moon is in Libra, it's going to be like, okay, we're going to survive from the place of the information age, right? So from the moon in Libra and the sun in Gemini, we're surviving in the age of the information shit. Moon in Scorpio, this shit is like, okay, now we're focusing on just all the different dark nights within and identity crises, perhaps, and the internal wars within the moon that has been accumulated from the new moon in Gemini, the philosophy in action, the quote unquote, the micro religion wars. And then after moon in Scorpio, from the resetted identity crises that are, the moon will be in Jupiter, and it's going to expand, and it's going to oppose, the information fucking industry, logistic lodge, quote unquote, competition and proxy. And the full moon is going to express, seeing how the different, contributions within Sag, the full moon will have that harboring energy, and it will amplify the qualities and how we gain harvest and how we have our individual type of Jupiter expansion path. And that individual Jupiter expansion path, that karma could be different than Saturn's karma, right? So Jupiter karma and Saturn karma, they could be a little bit different, right? And there's a story in astrology, obviously ask the experts of how, Jupiter and Saturn are doing their thing. Obviously it's in the information. Obviously it's Gemini season. Obviously people, all of them could have some type of certificate and degree, right? And that could make you look better within whatever the fuck you're doing. But still, we could still teach one, and we could see like how there's like a unique Jupiter and Saturn shit. And within that Jupiter and Saturn shit in the full moon in Sagittarius, we're going to see that unique advanced esoteric war. The full moon in Gemini is going to just like, we're all going to feel just all the different general wars, proxy wars, new wars, old wars, concluded wars, and peace at the same time. That's what we're going to be harvesting. And that's that peace and that war and that resolution and that conflict and that problem, that's going to be amplified on the full moon in Sagittarius. So I just took you from the background esoteric movie scene of new moon in Gem to full moon in Sag, and it was rough and raw. And then obviously I could do different astrology presentations of like the new sun in Gemini, and then how like the first house Gemini could fucking experience this, second house Gemini. That's a different video, right? and I could have done that recently, but I'm not going to do that right now. And I also could have done a different, presentation for astrology. So I did the astrology right there, and it's like hopefully on the new moon we kind of saw where we were within like just how the information has reached a certain benchmark and how it could be compiling within a certain type of true or not true artificial intelligence beyond general human intelligence, right? So it's beyond general human intelligence, whatever we're praising and amplifying and praising some type of advanced artificial intelligence to be. Well, the best artificial intelligence is knowing that that should have some type of awareness that there's a conclusive factor to this shit. And if it doesn't realize that, then it needs to call upon the spiritual intelligence for it to facilitate how it upgrades and moves and evolves, right? So that's the astrology right there. That's the new moon in Gemini. That's what we should be kind of feeling into within the new moon in Gemini. And now the moon is in Cancer, the moon is in Leo. We could be feeling like cheated, right? In Cancer, it's like there could be like, hey, what the fuck is going on? A unique, it could be a female versus female kind of like tit for tat, maybe, right? Cancer, like, hey, this is my shit, this is my man, this is my scrub daddy, mommy daddy. Like, it's all like it could be like there could be control issues in moon and Cancer. And then Leo, it's like now it's like where are the kids gonna go, quote unquote, moon and Leo type of shit, or what of the next generation type of shit, right? Moon and Leo, what of the next generation? We could invest that moon energy within the moon and Leo from the moon in Gemini to see where the kids are going on an authentic level. And then after, it's like Virgo is like, okay, feminine Mercury, the Virgos, a secret Virgo behind the CIA, behind the original 1920 CNA, and they're not even calling it Virgo. They probably have the shit already fucking lined up, no choice type of shit. Advanced human design shit, no choice type of shit. Motherfuckers, the most advanced intelligence in 2025, without a fucking doubt. And I naturally, standardly, esoterically won because there's a unique uncontestation. So I'm proving this two-dimensionality, misinterpreted baby bullshit, baby hater, BB shit, fucking shit out the fucking window. That's what that be, mofo. So within all of that baby bullshit being scooted and skitched and scooched and skedaddled and skedaddled and skerladdled and skerlurchled out the fucking Richter alley, then we don't have to bitch about irrelevant fucking problems in any fucking scene. We don't have to bitch about irrelevant fucking storylines, and we don't have to make up shit because there's something that's actually making the fucking solution for it to be what the fuck it's gonna be, So we don't have to complain about this fucking outdated, irrelevant, obsolete, fucking irrelevant fucking court case because there's a particular unique, nuanced cognitive dissonance within the individual, within the field, within the organization, and within the fucking quote unquote, most respectfully, the Godhead organizations, most advanced intelligence, and it's uncontested. And that's just what it is, motherfuckers. And I still don't give a fuck. So that's the astrology. And then obviously within, the moon, Mercury, and Saturn, within that being the surface level shit, low key, we're underplaying the different revolutions of Uranus and Pluto and all the other secret shit in the secret human design, right? But we're concerned, and we're kind of like having like this tug of war, particularly not good, not bad, with some type of moon, Mercury, and Saturn thing. And then the other surface level things, we also lean, and we could be overly polarized with just like, just the Venus shit. Like, oh, I'm just Venus. I'm just here to fucking go fucking do the Jefferson and do the fucking Peterson and every fucking walking stream. And I'm just going to laugh and just fart around. And while fucking, I'm not going to actually contribute on a different esoteric level. No, I'm the fucking main contributor in this esoteric shit. I don't give a fuck. So that was the fucking astrology. I would like you to start this from the beginning. So Winston's theory, like Bruno's a century earlier, included the chaotic role of comets in the creation of the solar system. So to finish the astrology, it's like that ancient CIA we also need the Libras, and obviously go back into an old video on how I explained not all sun sign Libras are the same and the differences between all the sun signs. That's a past old video, but we need the energy of Libra to survive. And I'm not trying to say that all Libras are good or all Libras are bad. I'm just saying you could get toxified and not fucking see the esoteric meaning of it. But we need the Libras to survive and keep going. So that's why, like, the Libras, they could have like very unique challenges, right? Even with like different types of like relationships. And maybe Aries could just be like, you know, kind of like floating past that, right? With Earth and Libra, right? Or like kind of like floating with that shit. And like Libra, Sun, Earth, Aries, I could be floating with, you know, just different types of just standard consciousness, right? Whatever though. Whiston's theory, like Bruno's a century earlier, included the chaotic role of comets in the creation of the solar system. Newton, since 1680, had shared this view, which interprets Genesis as a creation of Earth from a confused chaos. With comets causing the major transformations, Earth is created by a divine transformation of the orbit of a comet from an eccentric ellipse to a nearly circular one. Tohu Wabohu refers to the atmosphere of the comet. In fact, chaos means comet, so a new context of chaos. Comet, expression, from feminine to masculine. The mind is birthing something from the whirlpool of dream consciousness, and it's coming out and it's having different differentiation, you know, different types of fusion effects. And now it's making something of a solidified new aspect of essence. In fact, chaos means comet, according to Whiston. He wrote the Mosaic, ending with the K. The Mosaic creation is not a nice and philosophical account of the origin of all things, but an historical and true representation of the formation of our single earth out of a confused chaos, and of the successive and visible changes thereof each day till it became the habitation of mankind. According to Whiston, we got a 1, 2, 3 right there, baby. According to Whiston, Earth began life as a comet, orbiting the sun eccentrically, chaos. So Earth began life as a comet, maybe. So obviously it's like, what are you doing? Maybe, dude, chill. 2, at some point, God decided to make Earth a planet with a circular orbit, order, and a period of 360 days. Gadriel, we have came a long way. 3, eventually, other comets guided by God brushed against Earth, causing the flood, the obliquity slant of Earth's axis, the eccentricity of Earth's orbit, and thus the seasons. Earth's daily rotation and the cycle of days and nights have been accounted for in unique ways. The solar year changed from 360 to 365 days at this time. The Egyptian calendar is evidence for this. Hayley secretly shared this view. In 1701, Newton, who was suffering depression, accepted a job as warden of the Mint and moved to London. He employed his favorite student, Whiston, to deliver his weekly 30-minute lectures at Trinity College, Cambridge. After 2 years, Newton resigned his professorship, and upon his recommendation, Whiston replaced him as the third Lucasian professor of mathematics. Lucasian's professor of mathematics. About this time, Newton maneuvered his friend Edmund Halley into the Savilian chair of geometry at Oxford. So this is 1701 geometry, right? And obviously I get that 2012 shit. Almost immediately, the differences between Newton and Whiston began to grow. So they were already comparing and contrasting, right? In the 1700s, right? Whiston was too radical for Newton. In his public stance, at least, Newton turned to a fundamentalist position, publicly supporting a literal interruption of the Bible in his books Optics in 1704. His argument was based on the similarity of the orbits of all planets. Gemini, let's see what Gemini, and I guess, like, you know, Gemini and Samsung, obviously they have a unique agreement, right? Because it's like, it's embedded, right? Tell me about the 1704 book Optics, spelled Opticks.
Optics, published in 1704, is a groundbreaking scientific treatise by the English natural philosopher Isaac Newton. It's considered one of the most important works in the history of science, particularly in the field of optics, the study of light. Here's a breakdown of what makes optics significant. The experimental approach. Unlike many scientific works of its time that relied heavily on hypothesis and deduction, optics stands out for its strong emphasis on experimental evidence. Newton meticulously details numerous experiments he conducted, primarily with prisms and lenses, to explore the nature of light and color. He famously stated, "My design in this book is not to explain the properties of light by hypotheses, but to propose and prove them by reason and experiments." Nature of light and color, the core of optics, analyzes the fundamental nature of light. Through his experiments, Newton demonstrated that white light is a compound of all the colors of the spectrum. His prism experiments showed how white light could be separated into its constituent colors and then recombined to form white light again. Each color has a unique refrangibility. This means that each color of light is bent at a characteristic angle when passing through a prism or lens. Color is a sensation within the mind, not an inherent property of objects or light itself. While different wavelengths of light cause different color sensations, Newton understood that the perception of color is a subjective experience. He even created the first color circle to quantitatively predict color mixtures and qualitatively describe the perceived similarity among hues. Diffraction and inflection. Newton also explored the phenomenon of diffraction, which he referred to as inflection, where light bends around obstacles or spreads out after passing small openings. Corpuscular theory of light. Although later superseded by the wave theory of light, Newton's optics proposed that light consisted of tiny particles, or corpuscles. While his corpuscular theory didn't fully explain all phenomena of light, his meticulous experimental work laid the groundwork for future understanding. Influence and legacy. Optics was incredibly influential, not only for its specific findings, but also for establishing a rich experimental methodology that became a model for scientific inquiry in the centuries that followed. It provided the foundation for modern color science and significantly advanced the understanding of light, reflection, and refraction. The book concludes with a series of queries where Newton speculates on various scientific topics beyond just optics, including the nature of matter and even gravitation. In essence, optics is a testament to Newton's genius as an experimental physicist and his commitment to deriving scientific knowledge from observation and experimentation.
Wow. So obviously, I could transcribe that into like captions in the future. But I love how that like connected together. Yeah, so I'm gonna keep going. I could reflect on that later because I just like I was like listening. So almost immediately, differences between his argument was based on the similarity of the orbits of all the planets. Meanwhile, Whiston commenced going about the town giving imprudent lectures on primitive Christianity, sending radical letters to the archbishops and seeking to publish his research on the Arian heresy. Whiston's, let me see, I'm just going to stand up. Whiston's obsession with honesty and the necessity of putting the Anglican Church back on the Arian track provoked a response from the hierarchy that all his friends had anticipated. He was expelled from Trinity College on October 30th, 1710, and persecuted in a variety of courts for 4 years. Newton kept his silence, lest he be expelled as well. Whiston moved to London, where he supported himself with various mathematical odd jobs, including astrological charts and massage. Whoa. He further, and I could give massages. If any of you celebrities want a unique, quote unquote, intuitive Reiki massage, then you're going to have to pay top dollar because my knowledge and my energy have been like, it's been in such a way where you have to intuitively know, right? So I give massages, and if you want to work with me as your healing massagist, hit me up in my email, and it's only for the best, right? Because if like, you know, if you don't know, you don't know, right? That's okay. But I'm also, if any of you celebrities, and I'm unbiased, right? Even if like You know, and we could keep everything on just like a neutral terms, right? Like neutral terms. It doesn't even have to be a big thing. It's just that business. Like if Diddy fucking wants a massage, I'll give you a massage. It's just, but it doesn't even have to be just that, particularly that though. But like I'm also a unique massagist, and it doesn't have to be particularly. That was just a rough example, right? It doesn't have to be fucking Diddy. But I'm also a masseuse, right? So if you want to pay top dollar for the best shit, then hit me up, and if you don't, then let the fucking timeline do its thing, you know? Let the timeline fucking chop shit up. Motherfuckers. Where the fuck am I at? What the fuck? So I left. What the fuck? He further elaborated his creation theory in Primitive Christianity, revived in 1711 in Athanasius, convicted of forgery, a book written in italics, in 1712, and in Astronomical Principles of Religion, a book, natural and revealed, in 1717, written in italics. Newton published the second edition of Principia in 1713, with added material and the support of the Mosaic creation story of Genesis. Here he argued unsuccessfully for the stability of the solar system as a mathematical proposition by intelligent design already, right? Original open source. And claimed that, and obviously, you know, higher predecessors doing their shit with that. And claimed that God must intervene from time to time to reset the planets on their proper trajectory. So without God, the planets are with an improper trajectory, if you want to dilute the critical thinking there, right? So claim that God must intervene from time to time to reset the planets on their proper trajectories. So it's like it's insinuating that only God could reset the planets to the proper trajectories, and without God, they're not on the proper trajectory. So it's a particular context, many different contexts of chaos. His fear of the discovery of his Arian heresy led him to avoid any association with Whiston. With Whiston's heresy all but forgotten and Newton still a well-kept secret, they continued to avoid each other. When Wholee nominated Whiston for fellowship in the Royal Society in 1720, Newton threatened to resign as president, and the matter was dropped. Wholee at last published his common theory of the origin of the solar system. Newton published in the third edition of his Principia and died. So he got to his third edition for the Principia. The next year, in 1728, his work, The Chronology of the Ancient Kingdoms, amended, written in italics, was published posthumously. This book may have been inspired by the Chronology of Ancient Nations of Al-Biruni, discussed in chapter 7. Making use of the precession of the equinox, which he had calculated quite accurately, this work was devoted to the refutation of Whiston's theory of comets and chaos. During this time and earlier, Newton was working regularly at his alchemical furnace, although he had, and that's cool. I'm just passionate for the knowledge, you know. I'm not trying to be anybody, but alchemical furnace, like, okay, he's there, you know, he's there with Queen Elizabeth somehow, or like, not necessarily particularly that, but you know, like in that ballpark, you know. Newton was working regularly at his alchemical furnace, although he and his heirs successfully suppressed this fact for 200 years. The USW problem began. Newton was originally attracted to Whiston because of Whiston's theory about the relationship between comets and the chronology of the Bible, especially Genesis. The biblical flood is a manifestation of chaos, a byproduct manifestation result, you know, byproduct manifestation result, whatever. And then we're making a new story from the byproduct manifestation result. The biblical flood is a manifestation of what context of chaos? And from what type of, you know, the divine mother's mind, right? The divine mother's mind is the chaos, right? In one of the original contexts of chaos. So the divine mother's mind of chaos made the fucking flood, and the ancient divine trinity, you know, the Holy Mother being the Holy Spirit, the Father and the Son. The biblical flood is from some type of in and out of the divine Holy Mother. And then the structure of the God Father, he is absent, and now it's just the Christ lineage son, and the Christ lineage son is different metaphors, allegories, and contexts of the Christ being the quote unquote soul consciousness within the human, the allegory of Christ, in one casual context being the Christ consciousness within the human, right? And I've explained that. So I like the underground shit. I used to go for like 2 hours a day, no books. Just I put my notes together and I would just flow for 2 hours without books, just really drilling it down but that, like, I'm not in that season. I'm kind of like speculating this new season because I don't know, like it's just a surprise that I had I'm turning to books because I already did some other shit, But I'm just flowing. I'm also just flowing with this motherfucking shit too. So Newton was originally attracted to Whiston because of Whiston's theory about the relationship between comets and the chronology of the Bible, especially Genesis. The biblical flood is a manifestation of some type of divine mother, perhaps, and many have speculated that the flood was caused by the close passage of a comet, according to Livio Statini. So a micro feminine consciousness creating a micro masculine consciousness, a comet, a planet, a different context of a comet turning into a planet, a comet, a primitive planet, a comet having the evolutional upgrades to be a living consciousness, breathing ecosphere of an ecosystem. The comet is evolved to a planet, right? So the comet is being evolved to a planet, right? So the micro feminine is going to a micro masculine of a new surface level consciousness, and the AI is a different context of life within how organic consciousness grows side by side, quote unquote, artificial consciousness, beyond the Saturn and within the Saturn matrix, right? Advanced intelligence, right? So one of the precursors of Velikovsky as to the general thesis of the catastrophic path of Earth, to whom he refers in his work, was William Whiston. In 1694, 7 years after the first edition of the Principia, Whiston, then a fellow of Cambridge University, became a devoted pupil of Newton, and 2 years later submitted to his master the manuscript of a book entitled, in italics, and I don't have to say in italics, I'll just kind of change the tone or whatever, New Theory of the Earth. The book was intended to replace Popular Theory of the Earth by Thomas Burnett and dealt with the theme with which Newton had been concerned for more than a score of years. This book of Whiston's contended that the cataclysm described in the Old Testament as the universal deluge was caused by the impact of a comet and at the end of the 3rd millennium BC, and that up to the deluge, the solar year had the duration of 360 days only, yet the new calendar of 365 days had to wait to be introduced by Nebuchadnezzar in 7 BC. So within all of the surface level shit that I expressed on two-dimensional posts, that isn't necessarily, that's just like whatever shit, So within that whatever shit, we have to suspend our assumptions. And if we don't suspend our assumptions, we're going to get lost in some random quote-unquote chaos mind thought that could be artificial, that could engineer artificial emotions and feelings, which is going towards just the artificial hive mind matrix. And I'm just doing this on some pure 2012 advanced intelligence, quote unquote, intellectual savior shit, casually, just because this is what the predecessors could be giving us, right? Type of shit, right? So the open source has been accomplished, right? The concluding of information and the start of new information. Gemini season, the open source has been accomplished, right? We're here showing up, open source, And within all of that motherfucking shit, so I'm not necessarily claiming anything or saying anything. So that's another disclaimer within this internet shit. I'm not claiming anything or I'm not saying anything particular. I'm just sharing the news. I'm not saying this is going to happen. I'm not saying that's going to happen. There's particular disclaimers here. I'm not claiming or saying anything. If anybody wants to fucking speculate of, oh, this is going to happen, that's going to happen. No. There's disclaimers here. A lot of disclaimers throughout the internet shit. And there's a certain intention here of just sharing news and good news and supposed good vibes, and some honor and appreciation is there, right? So honor and appreciation within the middle of the presentation. And now let me finish this book. And after I finish this book or this chapter, I'll touch up on maybe the Tao again. So this book of Wisdom contended that the cataclysm described in the Old Testament as the universal deluge. So the Old Testament is a portal to a universal deluge, a different type of falling throughout the pantheon of time, throughout the surface level solar system, within this solar system timeline, from this timeline, within, the ancient Egyptian and ancient Chinese shit, and pre that, right? This book of Wisdom's contended the cataclysm described in the Old Testament as the universal deluge was caused by the impact of a comet at the end of the 3rd millennium BC, and that up to the deluge, the solar year had the duration of 360 days only, yet the new calendar of 365 days had to wait to be introduced by Nebuchadnezzar in 74-7 BC. These contentions were based mainly on historical evidence, whereas astronomical considerations were the main ground for suggesting that comets may become planets. Okay, so he said, so it was there, it's there in the. As to Newton's view, he was bent on proving that the machinery of the world's perfectly contrived system cannot be the result of a mechanical cause, but must be the result of an intelligent and consistent plan, spiritual shit, original spiritual shit, right? In order to support further the story of Genesis, and they're saying that the whole color wheel came from Newton, right? So the Newtons in the ancient quote unquote transcending the word and the etymology of the copyright system, there's some type of Newtonian thing within the establishment of the color wheel. And the color wheel, they're saying colors aren't real, they're sensations of the mind, they're emanations and expression of the mind being the body and the mind being a different vehicle, whatever, and that constituting different dimensions of self, and the colors being simultaneously, paradoxically real and not real because we're emitting them from our thoughts and feelings and our soul, right? So the colors are coming from thoughts and feelings and souls, and they're interchanging and interpassing, and they're coming and they're making new forms within different elements of the earth sediment, water sediment consciousness, right? And my Instagram is also whatever's. So, let me see. As to Newton's views, okay, in order to support further the story of Genesis, that the world was created by a single act, he argued that also that the world is stable and has remained unchanged since creation. So we're also starting with chapter 1 of the Bible, and just through the flow of this too, right? Through the flow of my work, we're revisiting chapter 1 of the Bible, Genesis. But he could, and obviously the different editions of Genesis within 1980s Japanese anime creations, right? 1980s Japanese anime creations, they speculated and studied and had knowledge of some type of Genesis theme within the changing theme of the mechanoids, right? Because there was some Gundam shit in the 1980s, right? And Genesis shit, right? So there was already they already had a different focal time arena within the 1980s, right? So hence he begged the question and claimed that God in his providence must intervene from time to time to reset the clockwork of the heavens to his original state. But he could not prove this point, since he admitted that according to his own theory, the gravitational pull among the several members of the solar system would tend to modify their orbits. So based on how one planet pulls more or less from the Earth and the Sun, Saturn matrix, the orbits get modified from, I guess, a different, bigger solar system container, right? Original open source. The view of Newton's doctrine is well known. It was the object of sarcastic comments by Leibniz, Newton's great rival in the mathematical field. Leibniz observed that Newton cast God not only as a clockmaker, and a poor one at that, but as a clock repairman. Shout out Jakes. This is just the tip of the iceberg. The controversy involving Wisdom, Newton, and Leibniz turned on the same point for which Bruno was burned, the USW problem and the stability of the solar system. So that's quote unquote, in today's intelligence respectively, that's quote unquote prim. The The Arianism of Newton, shared with William Whiston and others of a close circle of friends, developed into his obsession with revelations and prophecy. This in turn led to history, or rather chronology, and ultimately to the Mosaic creation myth of Genesis. At this point, a bifurcation occurred. Newton followed a basic creed of faith and order, including divine intervention to maintain the order of the heavens, the church dogma of stability in italics. Meanwhile, Whiston followed the path of chaos and the divinely guided comets. Newton became Sir Isaac, while Whiston became Poor Will. Bruno's demise may have been a factor in Newton's paranoia and secrecy. These men were, in effect, the last of the Sumerians. So wow, pause. So Newton was a spiritualist because he was leaning on the God fucking scapegoat or the God fucking integer or the God factor, right? So Newton was very spiritual, and then they concluded him being a Sumerian. So that's a big pause right there. So he was there, right? So Newton was a something, a real. He was a real something, right? Whew. Let me read chapter 27 of the Tao to conclude this. Good works are trackless. Good works are flawless. Good planning isn't calculating. What is well closed has no bolt locking it, but cannot be opened. What is well bound has no rope confining it, but cannot be untied. Therefore, sages always consider it good to save people, so that there are no wasted humans. They always consider it good to save beings, so that there are no wasted beings. So good people are teachers of people who are not good. People who are not good are students of people who are good. Those who do not honor teachers or care for students are greatly deludible, hootable. Even if knowledge, this is called an essential subtlety. Good works, chapter 27 of the Tao. Good works are trackless. This is called an essential subtlety. Wow. So obviously, and you know, obviously, like, you know, within the Saturn shit of it, it's like we all have to find like a real job, you know. But people misinterpret our job and duty. So that's the thing with the Saturn shit. Maybe like on a unique way, like the secret positive Saturn, it could be something that we don't know, right? So within the something that we don't know, and we're trying to feel good within the harsh Saturn shit, and we're depending on feeling good for positive Saturn shit, then why would we try to bite a hand that feeds us? That doesn't make sense. So I'm not giving away everything, not at all, and I'm not claiming anything. So I might do a beat right now. Let's do this beat.
Introducing Gemini in Gmail, AI that...
And obviously, shout out to, like, you know, that track record, right? Did I bring this on myself? Did I let it blow up in my face so I could create a new energy, scenery, new scenery, perplunking, surplusly, plus me, deluxely, I minus me, yo, different chateaus entering inside and out of me, out of me. Don't be pouting too much, yo, find a new exit scene, new entrance, yo, new energy, entering, menacing, center of a different centerfold, yo, clipped up, yo, I don't need to be ganged up, banged up, or gunned up. different magazine, different, yo, I'm abstract like orange or a tangerine. Tangerine, are you mad at me that I had to be? I be gassing me, I be passing me, I be flashing me, I be yo remaking me, reestablish this old yo. Reestablish what? Reestablishment, new parliament. Yo, I'm lit like a cigarette in the shit. What's the new incident about? Yo, proliferating, hopefully good vibes, nobly. I just gotta be, no, I'm from the original solar system. I don't give a fuck about going globally. Yo, globetrotterly. Who's giving me more rope when I need to climb back up to that next hill, uphill, upskill, up thrill, upfill, new deal, new drip, shit, new drill, yo, again, new gen, again, yo, point yourself to the mirror, no, you are the solution and the problem, again, new gen, yo, Gen Chi, Gen Z, Gen A, Gen Alpha Onic, yo, phonetic, yo, and supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. Yo, I'm so atrocious. I know you hate this shit and you love this shit at the fucking same time because this is duality. Dualitize, yo, super synthesize, yo, spiritualize, yo, engrave it, yo, uninstitutionalize us from this Saturnalia type of shit, yo, synthesize, megamize, yo, megamind, mastermind. What do I got? A motherfucking sacrifice. I'm just gonna come in, yo. Oh, can you hear this battle cry? Can you hear? Substantialize this shit, yo, in and out the motherfucking black box to the red box to the green box to the hee-ha, motherfucker, I ain't give a fuck like T-Dot to the blee-blah, motherfucker. So I did 2 songs in this presentation. So thank you guys.